Welcome, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Poets and Quants Online MBA panel, the Online MBA Experience. I'm your host, Allison Tomast. Today, we're joined by students and recent grads from three elite schools, Florida Warrington, Kennesaw State, and Wake Forest. Thank you all for watching, and thanks to our guests for being here today. To begin with, let's start by getting to know our panelists a little bit. I'm going to ask each of you to introduce yourself, where you're based, the school you attend or attended, as well as one fun fact about yourself. Dominique, would you mind starting?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name's Dominique Tuck. I attended the University of Florida. I'm currently located in Tampa, Florida. I currently work for Johnson & Johnson as a manager in our HR digital team. And a fun fact about myself, I'll say I met my husband my first weekend living in Tampa. How about that?
Love that. Thanks for sharing. Dan.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Dan Massey. I currently am enrolled at Kennesaw State University. I work as a business manager at Yamaha Motor Corporation in Kennesaw, Georgia, originally from the Georgia area. And one fun fact about me is I play lots of chess. It's one of my main hobbies, and I generally log about 40 to 50 games a day. So, yeah.
Wow, that is impressive.
Yeah, thanks, Al.
Yeah. All right, Wills, how about you?
Yeah, hey everyone. So my name is Wills Mackay. I am currently enrolled at Wake Forest University. I am based out of Washington, D.C., and I currently work on Capitol Hill. And a fun fact about myself is that I love to fly fish, one of my biggest hobbies.
It's so fun. Love that. All right, well, since we're already talking with you, why don't you kind of give us a brief intro of your professional experience and the current industry you're in, as well as your role in that industry. I know you said you work in government, so just tell us a little bit about your role in that area.
Definitely, yes. Yeah, so like I mentioned, I currently work on Capitol Hill. I work for a congressional committee, specifically the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. I was a political science major as an undergrad, and sort of my undergrad experience and internships led me to the Hill. I am sort of I'm early in my career, so I'm sort of looking to kind of pivot out of government. It's where I've started, but ultimately I want to pursue a private sector business role, and hence the online MBA. So yeah, that's sort of my I am a staff assistant for my committee. So yeah, that's sort of my current role, and the reason for the MBA is to sort of try and pivot a little bit.
Great, great. Looking to make a change. Love that. Dan, how about you? Why are you? Just tell us a little bit about your experience in your industry and background.
Sure. Yeah, no, thank you, Allison. So I've been in the workforce now going on about 20 years with a lot of different roles. I started in manufacturing operations. I've worked in marketing for very large companies such as Anheuser-Busch, and I've been in field sales roles. I came to Yamaha Motor Corporation about 10 years ago as a national sales manager and have been elevated through a couple of different positions while I've been here and learned a lot along the way. Currently, I'm a business manager, so I run our global parts and accessories distribution for our golf car division. And with that, I've decided to go back and get my MBA to accelerate my learning within totality of business and elevate myself to the next level, which is I'm looking for general management, vice president, or presidential level positions, either within my company or further down the road. But certainly, the things that I'm learning right now are completely applicable to what I'm doing within my generalized business.
Great, great. Thanks for sharing that.
Mhm.
Dominique, how about you?
Sure. So I'm also very early in my career. I joined Johnson & Johnson through their foundational HLDP program back in 2018. I've since been in several roles throughout the organization. I've really enjoyed my time here. When I'm now part of the HR digital solutions team where I manage our external vendors for learning and development and skills-based technology. It's been a really passionate aspect of my career, I will say. I am a graduate of the University of Florida, so I'm now alumni of the program. And when I joined, it was really to look for career development within my organization and career acceleration.
Okay. That's great. Sounds like you spent a lot of your time at University of Florida. Could you, Dominique, could you tell us a little bit about what led you to pursue an online MBA and kind of talk us through a little bit about that thought process and if you considered other degree options and maybe what some of the key factors were that led you to consider this program?
Sure, great question. So when I was considering an MBA, I was really thinking about my career end to end. Being a part of the HR function, I absolutely considered degrees such as HR professional degrees, or maybe some management or IO degrees as well. When I was thinking about what an MBA would mean for me, I was thinking about Johnson & Johnson as a larger organization and my passion for working in large organizations as well. I felt like an MBA would be a great way for me to not only be a human resources professional, but also be a professional in the industry and to accelerate my business acumen and understanding of an organization.
Right. And did you only look at Warrington or did you consider other programs?
For the University of Florida, I did only look at Warrington. Yeah.
Okay. Dan, can you answer that question? But what led you to pursue an MBA? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So, as I said, I've been in the workplace for a little while now, and in my specific role, I've been heavily involved with P&L management, operational and organizational management, a lot doing with sales as well as operations. And so, the thought of an MBA kind of came to mind when I wanted to accelerate that and operate at a higher level and a higher efficiency in preparation for my next steps that I'm making pivotal movements towards within my organization. For me, it's a little bit different. At my time in life, I've got two small children. They've got full-time activities. I've got a full-time job. So finding a program that fit within my time constraints as well as my budget constraints was very, very kind of difficult to get to. So I did consider a lot of different types of universities. I looked at the University of Georgia because I do live in the state of Georgia, and that one's a homegrown one. Kennesaw State, I am local to the area, so I've known that program for a very long time in the school, and it has a great reputation. I also looked at about 5 different universities across the country with varying degrees of pedigree. And really where I landed was Kennesaw State because of the value and the flexibility that it offered me for my lifestyle at this time, where I can work full time, I can spend my time with my kids, and I can go to school and enjoy all of those at the same time while having a good work-life balance.
Right. I mean, that convenience factor must be key.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely. All right, Wills, how about you? What led you to your program?
Totally. Yeah. So like I mentioned earlier, I am in politics and I'm sort of looking to make a change. I've been in my current role for about a little north of a year and 2 months, and I graduated back in 2022. So I'm very early. And yeah, basically, just kind of wanted to get a general business education that would serve me well in the private sector, possibly business consulting down the line. As I mentioned, I was poli-sci undergrad, so just kind of wanted to get exposure to business curriculum for a master's. I did consider other degrees for a while. I thought that I was going to go the law school route. Ultimately sort of decided that wasn't a worthwhile investment for me just because I didn't really ever see myself practicing law, like becoming an attorney, that route. So, and law school is obviously very expensive. So cost was definitely a consideration for me as well. And this online program through Wake definitely has been affordable and doable for me. Good scholarship options as well. Wake specifically, I sort of went after for 2 reasons. Number one, because a lot of my friends and colleagues from undergraduate school, I went to Furman University in South Carolina, went to Wake Forest, and just heard a lot of good things, word of mouth, about their business program specifically. And then, kind of got on the trail there, and then looked into it myself, looked into the curriculum of the online MBA. So that was the first reason. And then the second reason, just kind of regionally, ultimately, I want to settle in the Carolinas, North Carolina, South Carolina. And I just sort of thought that an undergrad degree from Furman and then a master's from Wake would really set me up for success in that region of the country. So yeah, and then of course, the curriculum just looked really attractive to me, and wide range of topics and skill sets that I wanted to gain through coursework.
Great. Sounds like it was a natural fit for you. Great. Now I want to talk a little bit about what the actual learning experience is like. When you're doing this online MBA, balancing it with your current job. I'm sure it's a lot. Tell us a little bit. Dan, why don't you tell us a little bit about the flexibility of the coursework, course load? What is the emphasis on the classwork and group work versus individual? Can you speak a little bit to those things?
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to. So Kennesaw State has a really unique program, and again, this is why I landed on Kennesaw State. Is it is tailored towards the working professional. So for me, like I said, I have a very already full schedule, and getting an MBA was sort of looked at as a little bit crazy at the time because of my time constraints and things like that. But Kennesaw State, the way it's tailored is it's a consecutive course. So when you start, it's about 20 months in total, about 5 semesters, all back to back. It is within a consortium, so you are with a team, and you're with that team throughout the entirety of the duration of your program, which is really, really great. So you get to pick your team at the start throughout everybody that's starting within your cohort at the same time. And it's usually about anywhere from 4 to 6 people. I would say the vast majority of the classes so far are heavily team-based activities. So a lot of the work, a lot of the projects, and even a lot of the exams are all team-based, which is somewhat of a challenge, but where I found that is really beneficial for somebody like me is I'm more in a general management track, and I'm not a specialist in necessarily any one area. So my team is comprised of accountants and engineers and management personnel as myself, as well as salespeople. So we're all at different levels within our career. And so we're all drawing off of that for each class. So the accountants really assisted me in the accounting classes, whereas in the organizational and general team behavior classes, that's where I was able to help bring my career experiences and life experiences for the younger team members, and it's really pulled us together. And so as a team, we're succeeding. Additionally, with the other teammates across all of the different teams within the cohort, we're interacting together. So it's very much has a momentous pull for us throughout the program that's helping me, and has been very, very beneficial for me. So I find it much more team-based than it is individual. There is still a lot of individual effort that has to go into it, but certainly the team base has been very, very good. The classes 100% online. We are part of not just the Kennesaw State, but we're also part of the Web MBA program, which it's constituted with many other schools within the university system of Georgia. And so we're actually pulling professors from various universities and different viewpoints that are adding to the overall curriculum. So we're getting a lot of good education. And with that, even with the professors being at different schools, the interaction, I would say, from my time in my undergraduate where I was in person to now, is probably about the same, the interaction level. So we're talking with the professors on a very regular basis. They're there for a great support system, as well as the Kennesaw State MBA team has been an extremely helpful resource for us as we're proceeding through this. And so for the most part, our team has been extremely successful as we go through this, and certainly looking to continue that as I complete the degree here.
Great. That's wonderful. And being so local, have you ever had a chance to, I don't know, go on campus and take advantage of any campus opportunities?
Yeah, absolutely. So fortunately, Yamaha Motor Corporation, we are situated next door to Kennesaw State. I live down the road a little ways, but yes, the doors at Kennesaw State have been wide open for us as students. And so with my team, even though we are spread out across Georgia, my team, we meet up at least once a semester, and we're able to go into Atlanta. We've seen Braves games together, grab beers together. So it's very, very good, tight community, as well as the leadership at Kennesaw has been welcoming us onto campus. I've been on campus many times just in my MBA program to visit, speak with them, get support for things that I need. They invite us to sporting events. We have a great football team. We have great sports. I mean, our men's basketball team made March Madness in recent years. So the university has a lot of great aspects in student life, even for the online teams.
That's so great to hear. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing that. Dominique, what about you? Can you talk a little bit about the learning experience at Warrington?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. The University of Florida Online MBA program is absolutely designed with professionals in mind, whether you're working full-time, part-time, working a 9 to 5 schedule or odd schedules. The program is very flexible. I would say it's a good amount of group work as well as individual, so you can balance your weeks. You're not always aligning to your group schedule. You can align your time to, adhere to a group's connection, whether it's on a weekend or a weekday, but also being able to carve out your own time for individual learning, exams, papers, and whatnot. I would say from that perspective, the program is really great for working professionals. The course load itself is manageable. You're only taking about 2 courses at a time throughout the program. So you're able to focus quarter over quarter. Sometimes the topics are aligned to each other. So you may be taking 2 mathematics courses or a supply chain and marketing. And so you may be cross learning, which I think is really effective within the program. There's also a really great way to build your community within the University of Florida through the program. You can either attend online courses or on-campus courses for a week on campus. There's also quite a few ad hoc weekend events on campus. So if you're local to the state of Florida, you can go on campus for a weekend, attend a football game, or attend a PowerPoint course that I did one time. That was really, really fun. There's also global immersion. So if you're looking to open your lens to not just the United States or go globally, there's also about 2 global immersions per semester. So the university will take you with your cohort. You'll have some group project work, great learning in the country that you're in, and then you get to also see some other companies and ways of working that may be new or unusual to how you operate yourself. So I will say that is some of the areas that I took away from my learning.
That's great. Did you get to do any of the global immersions?
I did. I went to Rome with my cohort. It was a really great experience. There's cohorts across, so it wasn't just my cohort. I was able to meet students from other programs, other professional online programs, and then differentiating graduating classes as well.
Excellent. That's so great. Wills, how about you? Tell us a little bit about the learning experience that you've had so far.
Definitely. So similar to Dan and Dominique, Wake Forest program is definitely tailored for working professionals. The courses are all online. And what I sort of like about it is they pretty much give you like a deadline. And from there, it's up to you how you approach what you're doing. There are synchronous live sessions every week, as well as the asynchronous work. But in terms of how you approach when you do what, that's totally up to you. Which, at least for me, I mean, that's a good skill to just kind of practice and develop in general time management throughout the week with my 9 to 5 as well as my coursework. So that's sort of how it works. The semesters for Wake's program are broken up into 2 mini-mesters that are about 7 weeks each. And similar to what Dominique said, at Florida, you're usually only taking about 2 classes, sometimes even 1 class if it's like a heavier topic with more work behind it. And they usually are if you're taking two classes, they sort of play off of each other, which is nice. And I think that that's effective, as she mentioned. So that's sort of how that works. There's a good blend of group work and individual work. I would say that the majority of the assignments are individual. For all of the classes that I've taken so far, there has been at least one group assignment out of the whole mini-mester, which has been really cool. I've enjoyed those group projects a lot, and I've had some overlap with people that I've worked with from previous classes. Like we worked on, now two or three group projects together, which is fun because you kind of get to learn their skill set. As Dan was saying, like you can really kind of go off of each other's strengths within the projects. And once you get to know sort of who you're working with, it makes approaching those assignments easier. So it's been very rewarding in that way. There's also a lot of discussion posts and discussion based assignments that we do weekly, where the professor will basically just give us a discussion prompt, and it's usually like relating the coursework to something going on in the world, something relevant to the coursework. And we have to submit our own original response and then respond to other classmates in the cohort. So that's sort of another good way to learn what other people are doing, like their perspectives, their strengths. So that the discussion posts I've found to be pretty useful and a good way to get to know some of the folks in my cohort. Yeah, that's sort of the breakdown of the learning experience, and it's been great for me thus far. As I mentioned, I really enjoy just sort of them giving me the deadline, and from there it's up to me on how I do it. And I've really been able to tailor the experience into my own life. And I don't have children or anything like Dan. I'm early and single, so I have a bit more time to do my work after work. So yeah, it's good, but it definitely is. It's approachable for any age. I think I'm pretty sure I'm the youngest person in my entire cohort. There's definitely folks with families and things of that nature, and the program is still very doable for them. So yeah.
Great. Thank you for sharing all that. Often MBAs are focused on a specific role, company, or career path, rather than the kind of person or leader they want to develop into. How do you think business schools can aid in that process? And can you speak a little bit to the tangible and maybe some of the intangible skills that you've learned and your personal ROI? Dominique, do you want to take that question?
Sure, happy to.
Yeah.
From my perspective, I pursued an MBA because I wanted to be an effective business partner. Human resources individuals, we focus quite a bit in the HR space, but as you work in different organizations or you work with different businesses within an organization, you have to be able to have that level of business acumen that's really important to understand how a business operates and also how effective work can happen. And so for me, from an organization, from a MBA perspective, I really took that into account when I was going through my coursework. I wanted to understand organization, supply chain, the economics of an organization more effectively. I wanted to change my mindset from a finance perspective and, being an HR person, numbers, but I wanted to get to understand the numbers and read between the lines when I'm thinking of a balance sheet. So I really took that as an opportunity to learn and develop myself. And I do think it makes me a more effective, not just HR partner, but business partner within the organization. And I think it also elevates my thought processes when we're bringing out new HR technology or HR business practices. We want to think about not just what HR can deliver, but also how it will impact the business from a risk, finance, and strategy. So I think in all of those aspects, I became a more effective and well-rounded leader.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. Dan, can you speak to this?
Yeah, certainly. So, Dominique touched on some great points there, and certainly, the program that I'm in at Kennesaw State is heavily tailored towards, the working professional, but it's also looking at transitioning people from where they're at. And one of the first things that I noticed when coming into my cohort was the vast amount of people within the cohort did not come from a business background. They were either in medical or veterinarian or a different type of field than necessarily business. And what they wanted to do was elevate themselves into running a business and becoming a leader. And so what I found with the coursework and the teamwork aspect that the Kennesaw State online program offers is that we are developing the soft skills, we're developing the organizational skills, and we're really developing the leadership skills in order to run businesses at a higher level. For me specifically, I've had a business background. My undergraduate was in business. And so a lot of this is really honing my skills, or it is learning some new skills along the way because it's been a long time since I've been in my undergrad and things have changed. There's new technologies and things like that. And one of the things that Kennesaw State is really doing and embracing is AI and the technology behind that. So some of the things that I've taken away as a personal ROI, we just finished a semester, and part of one of my classes was in statistics, and I'm actually working with a professor and was able to actually apply some of those things to my actual business and start to drive change. And so for me, what that's showing is to at least my superiors is that I have the ability and adaptability to change, but also to drive change within the organization and look at things in a very different light. One of the big things, and Dominic did touch on this, which is great, is looking at things in a different perspective. And I think that is one of the key elements to having an MBA, and why it's so desirable is because you're not just focused on finance, you're not just focused on marketing, you're focused on the business in totality and what your role within that organization, how that can impact those. Because as we know, in business and in every organization, whether it's in the public sector or private sector, it has ripple effects to everybody with the decision making you're doing. And so with this, what I really see is having that perspective helps you understand that this is what it can mean to the bottom line. This is what it can mean to the overall organization, the growth, the change, as well as the impact to the community and your customer base.
Right. That's great. And I love how you're already able to implement that AI into your current job. That's very cool.
It's been very positive for me so far.
That's great. And Wills, can you speak to this as well?
Definitely, yeah. So, as a person that doesn't come from a business background, sort of like what Dan was saying, I wanted to develop a just general business acumen. I loved that terminology that Dominique used. I wanted to come in and learn about finance, learn about supply chain, learn about marketing, learn how all of those parts contribute to the whole, and have a general kind of understanding of each of them. Specifically, I am looking to sort of get a data analytics role. That's sort of like what I'm enjoying the most at Wake right now and in my coursework. So that's sort of like where I'm diverting a lot of my efforts, but I'm also still learning about all of these other topics that they've mentioned, and just kind of having a general business savviness that would make me an asset in any part of a business, sort of like Dominique mentioned. I really think that she hit the nail on the head. So yeah, that's sort of what was my approach with entering the program. And I'm not necessarily implementing the skills that I'm gaining right now, but I'm fairly certain that I will in the future. And I'm just excited to be learning all of these new things that I didn't learn as an undergrad, and hopefully we'll be able to put into practice here pretty soon.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. The next question I have is, what would you say is kind of the biggest hallmark of your educational experience, or the things that you'll think maybe you'll remember the most or have provided the greatest impact? Dan, do you want to start off with that question?
Sure. I tell you, probably the biggest hallmark for me, or the biggest takeaway, and I've touched on this a little bit, is my individual team. I was extremely thankful for the team that I was paired with. You know, you're never really sure how a team's going to function until you really get into it and you get in the trenches. But the relationships that I've built with these individuals are ones that I can certainly carry with me into the future, and that is one of the big things about working in this program is it is very much team based, and we're reliant on each other. So it's not just that we are getting work done. We're actually going through life experiences together. And one of our team members had a baby while we've been in the program. Others have had job changes. Others have, had key moments, and we're celebrating that together. And those are bonds that I believe are going to carry us, not just in our personal life, but potentially, in our professional lives down the road. Now we have points of reference that can help propel us into bigger and better. We can also turn potential employees to those individuals as they have job openings, or as we have job openings. I've worked with one of my teammates as he's looking to make a change, as we all are. We're looking to change and grow. I've helped drive him into specific areas within my network, and so we're expanding our networks, we're strengthening our relationships, and I believe that is going to be outside of having a prestigious degree from Kennesaw State University, which is very well known, is I've got now some very, very solid relationships that I plan on carrying with me the rest of my life.
That's wonderful, and not always something you think you might get out of an online MBA experience. So that's really cool. Dominique, can you talk a little bit about this? What was the biggest hallmark of your educational experience?
Absolutely. So I have two, and Dan, just to foreshadow, 2 years out of program, you will still have that network and that relationship. That is absolutely one of my biggest hallmark takeaways from my time in the MBA program. We still celebrate weddings, we still celebrate babies, we still celebrate promotions and job moves 2 years later. And well said, Dan. We were in the trenches together. Some days we would have a team meeting that would last 30 minutes to an hour, and some evenings we would be working till 2 a.m, depending on how we project managed ourselves leading up to our deadlines. And so I will say that was one of the best growth experiences, because if you grow up in your own company, your 5, 6 years, 2 years in career, you only know how your own organization operates, but you get to learn how other organizations, other individuals, other functions operate. You get to bring in these diversified experiences and really deliver some excellent work. And I really enjoyed my time doing that. And we even had some side projects on my end where I found out one of my team members and I were getting married at the same wedding venue. So then we had 2 different projects to work on and collaborate on, which was really funny. And then another one of my hallmarks was our global immersion trip. As I mentioned, I went to Rome with my cohort and individuals I'd never met before, and we had a fantastic time. We went to organizations that were local to Italy, or Rome in particular. We learned about their culture, their working style, what they can deliver from an innovation and technology perspective, energy. And we really got to have some great time working on projects and understanding different industries that we may not have exposure to in our day-to-day. So I will say those are 2 of my hallmarks.
Love that. Thank you for sharing. And Wills, what about you?
Definitely. So I think the first one that comes to mind, at least for me, is I think that the professors of practice that Wake Forest has have been very beneficial from my POV, just because they have been out in the private sector and they have used the tools that they're teaching us at their role. So I think that that's very valuable. They know what's in demand. They are closer to it than I think a professor that maybe has been in academia for decades and maybe hasn't worked in the private sector in some time. So I think that having those professors that are close to the ground, so to speak, with what's in demand these days is great. And for example, in my current business analytics class, I think that my professor has done an excellent job with really bringing in very realistic, tangible situations that you could, that happen. So I think that that's really, really valuable, and makes the education more useful for me, right? As a person that, like I said, hasn't come from a business background, I want to understand how these methods and things that we're learning are actually used in the world. So in the business world. So I think that that's very been a hallmark for me thus far. Most of my professors that I've had are professors of practice. And I think that getting outside of the world of theory, basically, I think is very useful. So that for sure. And then sort of what Dan and Dominique mentioned, I think that, and especially me being a younger, earlier person in my career, having connections with a lot of folks that are 10, 15, 20 years into their careers, that I think will be invaluable for me. Everyone has been so kind and nice to me. Was a little bit intimidating coming in as such a younger person, talking to someone who's been working in the private sector for 20 years definitely can be a bit intimidating, but the folks in my cohort have been super, super kind and willing to give advice and willing to, keep an eye out for jobs for me, so things like that. Those are very tangible sort of results. And I think that network will pay dividends, as I'm in this program and hopefully after. So, I think that that's something that all of our programs have in common, is that the people that are in them are smart, kind people that just want to make the world better, make business better, and just help each other out. So those are the two things that come to mind for me thus far.
Great, absolutely. And so valuable to have those networks moving forward in your careers. And what is your biggest piece of advice to someone considering an online MBA in general, or at your school in particular? Dominique, do you want to start with that one?
Sure. When we first started, our dean had shared with us these wise words of wisdom. When you join an MBA program or an online MBA program, you're going to learn to say no quite a bit more. And I reflected on that many times throughout my online MBA career. What I will say, though, is you can still balance. We make time in our lives for very many things, and we have students in all walks of life who are going through work transitions, families, and whatnot. And so they can make it work. I made it work. Many people can make it work. So if you're considering an MBA program, you can carve out the time. You'll just have to learn to manage your time a little bit differently than you're currently used to.
That's excellent advice. Dan, what about you?
Yeah, no, thank you. So my 3 points to going for an MBA or even an online MBA is one, have a goal in mind. Don't just get an MBA just to have an MBA. Have an understanding of where you want to take that. What will this degree do for you, or what are you hoping to do at some point down the road? And so I think it's important, just like everything else, is to establish a goal and establish the action steps to actually get there. That's very, very important. And early on, especially in our program, we looked at those goals, and in specific classes, we've reviewed those goals over and over. So it's reinforced, and those goals may change, and that's okay. But it's important to know the why behind what you're doing. Now, the second point I'll state is that MBAs are still widely in demand. It's not something that is going down. MBA preferred is still on a lot of job applications and descriptions out there. As a hiring employer, for certain levels, that is something that we do absolutely look for, and it's still very much in demand. And then the last part is, there's never going to be a good time. I put it off for years. I could have gone into it right out of undergrad, which would have been tough as I was trying to accelerate my personal life and career life. I got married. I had kids. There's never really a good time. So it's kind of like a Band-Aid. Just go ahead and do it, rip it off. You will find your cadence. It's not as scary as it's made out to be. And there's a lot of positives that you'll find along the way. And as Dominique mentioned, if it's a priority, you're gonna find time for it. You'll make it work. It'll be okay. And certainly, I would say just jump in. There's never a good time.
Right, right. Good advice. And how about you, Els?
Yeah, definitely similar to Dan's approach. I'm a goal-oriented individual. And I think that my advice would, apply probably mostly to younger students just because that's where I am. But the way that I approached it is I just looked at where I wanted to be in the next 5 or 10 years and career-wise, and just basically made a pros and cons list, like how will the online MBA or MBA help me get there? How will it not? I love making pros and cons lists, just very tangible. So yeah, definitely set your goals, sort of balance and think to yourself, how will this program help me get there, or how will it not? I would also say, at least for me, this is a very grounded thought, but definitely look at the price of it, right? I mean, degrees are investments. They're investments in yourself, which is fantastic. But it sort of ties into the first point, is like, balance. Is that investment going to help you reach where you want to be in the next 5 or 10 years? So those were the considerations that I made. And like I said, Wake has a lot of good scholarship options, and the tuition is definitely reasonable for the online program. So for me, the financials behind it made a lot of sense, especially comparing it to law school, which I did. Another piece of advice, consideration, at least that I took and did, as I thought about geographically, where's the university? Like I said, I want to end up in the Carolinas, and I think that my degree pairing will set me up for success there. So thinking geographically, where you want to go, where you want to be, I think that that's important as well. And sort of to tie into my first point of like weighing if it will help you get to where you want to be in the next 5 or 10 years. A piece of advice to sort of actually do that is to just really look at the coursework. At least Wake, they list every single course in the entire 28-month program. So I did that. I looked at those when I was applying. I asked about specific courses, asked questions for sure to the admissions folks. Wake's admissions team was great to me, and we're not hesitant to answer my questions. I'm a curious person, and oftentimes ask a lot of questions. So I think that that's a good thing in this type of investment, when you're considering making this type of investment. So yeah, set your goals, know where your financials are, and think about geographically where you want to be as well.
Great, great. I think we have time for 1 or 2 quick questions from viewers. Dominique, maybe you want to take this one. What resources or support services did you find most beneficial as an online student?
Yeah. So the University of Florida has a really great career services department. And whether you're looking to excel within your own career or within your own organization, or you're looking to move to other organizations or pivot career paths, they're really good about understanding, providing recommendations, and getting you in touch with either organizations or alumni that could support your experience. I think I saw the same career presentation every time I was on campus. They really drill it into you to leverage the Gator Nation network, to continue to think about yourself from a development perspective, to think outside of the box of where you can go next. And so that was a resource that I even heavily utilized staying within my own company. And one that I would highly recommend to anyone who does an University of Florida MBA.
Excellent. Dan, maybe you can answer our last question. How have you managed to stay motivated and engaged as an online student throughout the program?
That's a great question. That's a tough one for sure. For me, it's a little more personal. I have two small children, a 10-year-old and a 3-year-old, and really I'm trying to set an example for them that, you know, there's no boundaries in your life, that you can still do things, you can push the limits and to keep learning, and that learning is a good thing, and that it's good for our family. And by doing this, you know, and sacrificing, you know, my evenings and some of my weekends, you know, where they see me studying and see me doing my teamwork, is that I'm doing this for the family, and we're going to be able to potentially do bigger and better things with our lives as a result of it. And so, you know, that for me with my kids is my main motivator. But also, you know, I pride myself on being a leader. I pride myself on helping others, and so really. I see this as an opportunity to positively impact those around me and down the road. And as a potential result of getting my MBA is I'm going to be able to help more people within their careers or their lives down the road. And that's one of my biggest motivators in what I do every day.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you so much to all of you for sharing your perspectives. I'm sure it'll be very valuable to prospective students. So thank you again for taking the time. And thank you to our viewers for joining this online MBA event. And be sure to watch the remaining panel sessions throughout the day to hear from other top business schools as well as other student perspectives. And as always, be sure to go to poetsandquants.com for other informative articles, videos, and more, no matter where you are in your MBA journey. See you next time.